Hey everyone, I'm Daleen Hassan. Welcome to Inspire Middle East. This week we'll be exploring how the pandemic is affecting domestic animals in the UAE and shining a spotlight on the illegal wildlife trade. Also, we'll visit a lion zoo to hear more about their rehabilitation program for rescued animals.
We try to rebuild this trust through a positive reinforcement behavioral training.
But first, the coronavirus has not only abandoned our lives, it's also having a dramatic impact on our four-legged friends. With countries closing borders, many pets have been left to fend for themselves. But it hasn't all been doom and gloom in the UAE. This unusual isolation period has seen people's desire for a furry companion grow. Rebecca McLaughlin-Easton takes a closer look.
Many animal shelters in the UAE have seen an influx of creatures since the COVID-19 pandemic took hold. Dr. Manal Al-Mansouri of the government-supported animal welfare organisation YANI has 15 rescue pets of her own at home. She says that pet abandonment is a long-standing problem that has been heightened in recent months.
We're getting at least 2 to 3 requests to surrender private pets per day. But at the same time, we're getting at least 5 to 7 requests per day to remove the community cats from around the place. They don't own the cats, but they do want to see the cats around them.
Dr. Manal says some people fear the animals will spread coronavirus or rabies, and she's doing her best to teach them otherwise. That, as well as setting up designated feeding stations for stray animals to avoid random feedings by well-wishing members of the public, which often causes cats to gather in tower block basements and parks.
The person who's feeding only looks to the animal. But for us, we look at the residents, we look at the business owners, we look at the government entities, we look at the environment, we look also to the animals. So if it is done in a wrong manner, those 5 parties will get affected in a negative way.
If they're lucky, a place where abandoned or stray pets have found themselves over the years is the cat shelter within Abu Dhabi's Falcon Hospital. It's a clinic that cares with a strict no-kill policy, no matter how many stray and rejected animals are brought to their door. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck, the facility's executive director had expected the number of people looking for new pets to drastically fall.
Actually, more people came to adopt cats and dogs. We had about an increase of around 7%, which is a very good number considering that most of the country was actually closed.
Fostering and adopting pets in lockdown can ease loneliness and give purpose to many people during periods of isolation, says Muller. That's not to say she gives these cats to anyone asking for them. There's a strict vetting process in place, and while some are rehomed almost immediately, others take up to a year.
If you adopt a pet, it should be for life. A pet is not just a commodity that you use and then you throw again.
A lifelong dog lover is UAE resident Manuela, who despite already having 3 dogs at home, has her heart set on number 4. Adoption, she says, is the only way.
When you're buying through a shop, you don't get a history. You don't have the history of their parents. You don't really know where they come from. And buy-in from a shop is you're basically, once you buy, you're supporting the puppy mill trade.
When choosing a new family pet, Manuela looks for an instant connection, and she admits it's all in those puppy dog eyes.
Every dog has a story. For me, I do like the underdogs. I like the ones that they look like they need love. They're broken. You know, they've been let down by humans.
Her advice for animal owners in the UAE at this time is to save their money in advance for the potential repatriation of their pets one day. Seasoned in the business of relocating animals from the UAE to people's home countries is Dubai Kennels Cattery and Veterinary Clinic, which saw its businesses, including a pet hotel and boarding facilities, badly hit from March to July, as global borders closed and airlines grounded their fleets. Relocating a medium-sized dog from the Emirates to the UK could cost up to $2,700, says the company.
People are looking for discounts. People are finding themselves suddenly without jobs. suddenly having to relocate, repatriate, sometimes move to another country.
Todd also has encouraging words for pet owners fearing for their animals in transit. Dogs voyage particularly well, he says, and even cats who have never travelled before are remarkably resilient.
The anxiety that most owners have about the terrible experience their pets are going to have traveling is generally not the case. The vast majority of pets arrive in very good condition and good mood. There are stress points. Takeoff and landing. Your pet is in a very strange environment. They've usually never been there before.
Reassuring words that may give dog and cat owners the courage not to pause for thought when relocating their animal back to their home country or bringing home the perfect adopted pet from a neighbouring emirate.
We now turn our attention from tame animals to wild ones. Each year, millions of exotic animals are sold and trafficked to homes across the world. The demand for unique creatures has skyrocketed. The global wildlife trade is now a multi-billion-dollar industry on the black market. Salim Saeed visits the Emirate of Al Ain to see how endangered animals are being rescued and rehabilitated.
For the past 15 years, the world has faced an unprecedented spike in illegal wildlife crime, according to the World Wildlife Fund. According to the UN, the poaching and selling of exotic animals as pets or for their body parts generates up to $23 billion a year, making it the fourth most lucrative illegal trade after narcotics, human trafficking, and counterfeiting. Zoonotic diseases make up about 75% of all emerging infectious diseases for humans, including the virus that causes COVID-19. The mishandling of the pangolin is believed to be a potential source of coronaviruses. The 2020 report by the UN Office on Drugs and Crime states that seizures of pangolin scales increased tenfold between 2014 and 2018, a sign experts say that inaction against illegal wildlife trade is not an option.
Now, the chances of this happening again are most likely high, since we see unregulated markets, even regulated markets, continuing to launder illicit wildlife. And this is really a threat to all of us, because the last thing we want is to have another pandemic.
In the Arabian Peninsula, cheetahs are highly sought after, typically taken from the Horn of Africa, priced up to $15,000 per live creature on the black market. The UN states that nearly 5 out of 6 cheetah cubs taken from the wild die during illegal trade. The UAE became the first Arab country to ban the trade and private ownership of wild animals in 2017. Many Gulf countries followed suit, yet people in the region continue to openly own and trade exotic animals.
In the UAE, the Al Ain Zoo has taken in more than 200 rescued wild animals, including primates and carnivorous felines, many of which have been trafficked and arrive with severe physical and psychological trauma in need of rehabilitation, which can take months to accomplish.
According to the UN, 53 cheetahs were rescued in the UAE between 2005 and 2019. I had the pleasure of meeting 2 of them, 1.5-year-old Ra'ad and Bassam, rescued last year by local authorities. They were found in poor health due to mishandling during transport. One of the first steps needed to help them recover, say their caretakers, was changing the cheetah's perception of humans.
This bad experience obviously makes them think that all humans are bad. So we try to rebuild this trust through a positive reinforcement behavioral training. And this is mainly rewarding the animal for the positive behavior. So gradually this is trust built again. But without this trust between the animal care staff and this animal, you cannot really move forward.
With trust restored, caretakers could now begin the enrichment stage, rehabilitating the health and natural instincts of these wild creatures, the fastest land mammals, to run, look for food, and socialize naturally. The Al Ain Zoo is also looking to strengthen wildlife populations through conservation and breeding. Among its almost 4,000 animals of more than 200 species are those in need of conservation, such as the long-horned addax, the dama gazelle, and the Arabian sandcat. A small, shy-appearing desert feline, genetic breeding is part of the survival of the local species, says Al Ain Zoo's conservation unit head. The team began research on the cat's genetic makeup in 2013, and I was shown how negative traits threatening the feline's survival can be identified and then bred out to strengthen population numbers. Their research is finding the Arabian sandcat's closest genetic relatives to breed with and increase their numbers while still maintaining their genetics.
It informed us that the Arabian sandcat and the Asian sandcat have little differences when it comes to the genetic side. And for us, knowing that, we can think of them as one population.
The Al Ain Zoo now has about 24 Arabian sandcats and hopes that this number will grow, along with the understanding of visitors about the importance of protecting animals meant to be wild and free.
Well, that's all for this week. We hope you enjoyed it, and do catch all of our episodes online at Euronews.com. Before I sign off from the Emirates Park Zoo, here are some animal-loving Instagrammers that drew our attention this week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Animal lover Ronja from Germany feeds some hungry cats while walking the streets of Zamalek in Cairo. And Carolina from England had an exotic breakfast at the Emirates Zoo with Mary the giraffe.